Hello Blues, welcome to the Manchester is Blue show. Just before the show, get over to our Facebook page, have a look at our pinned post. You can win a signed shirt by a City player. Brilliant. £4.95 to enter, maximum 99 tickets, and we'll make the draw whether we sell all 99 or not. Gotta be in it, Blues. See you soon and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Manchester is Blue show. This is the pre-match for the Burnley tomorrow night. City away at Burnley. We've got a good record against them, lads. And thank you very much for joining me. We've got Cloud, we've got Brian, we've got Tom, we've got Dan. How are we doing, boys? We okay?
Yeah, doing great. Yeah,
all good.
Fantastic.
Well.
Are we looking forward to playing Burnley tomorrow night then? Because we've not got such a bad record against them. Tom, you're going, mate, aren't you? Tell us what's going on, pal.
Yeah. I'm there again tomorrow, reporting from the press box, which I imagine isn't going to be as glamorous as what I'm used to at City. But no, I don't think I ever look forward to playing Burnley. I don't think it's a game that anyone sees and goes, "Oh, that'll be a cracking 90 minutes of football." But yeah, like you say, our record against Burnley isn't bad. It's going to be absolutely freezing there, so I'm hoping there's some goals to keep us entertained. But no, I think we should be all right tomorrow.
You'd like to think so. We've got a great record against them recently, winning the past 7 meetings against them, and we're not doing too bad at the moment. You've got to be positive going into this game, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those sort of cliche fixtures, isn't it? The midweek away. Can you do it midweek away at one of these teams? But I mean, I'd just fancy us against anybody at the minute, regardless of our form and theirs. To be fair, I just think it's a case of knuckle down, graft, get an early goal, and just see the game out. They're gonna have a goal. They're fighting for their lives. As you can see tonight, there's been some pretty tasty results already for them down at the bottom. So, these are going to be up for it. But we need to just go about our business.
Absolutely, no, you're spot on. Dan, Burnley looked a bit subdued against Chelsea. I don't know if you watched them on Sunday.
I did, yeah.
Maybe their efforts against Aston Villa and Liverpool have really started to catch up with them where they did do well. They've not had much rest time either coming into this game, as neither are City, granted. How are you expecting Burnley to play? Are you expecting them to do the traditional... Saying that, I was going to say 11 men behind the ball, but they're not scared of coming forward, Burnley, when they need to. How do you think the game will play out from their point of view?
They're your old traditional mid-table top of the division type team. They can score the odd goal. They can defend well. But the thing with Burnley, especially under Sean Dyche, is how well maintained they are in terms of using the stamina, using the energy they have left. They always seem to have reserves. Their experienced midfield is second to none in terms of experience when it comes to seeing out a game. So I agree with Tom. I never look forward to a Burnley match, and I know we've won the past 4 meetings 5-0 or something like that. I always expect a tough game, always against Burnley, and I expect the exact same tomorrow.
Cloud, nice to see you, pal. We're expecting, obviously, we've got Kevin De Bruyne out, we've got Ake out, we've got Sergio still remains unfit. Obviously, he's back in training now, which is fantastic. Do you expect to see any surprises with our lineup tomorrow? Any youngsters coming through, or do you expect him to just go solid, professional, traditional lineup tomorrow night?
Yeah, I think it's going to be professional lineup all the way with Pep, and I think he'll do a similar thing even when we play Swansea in the FA Cup after. We might see a few players who were rested for the Liverpool game, possibly, but I think that's a dangerous thing for City, where I feel a lot of fans as well have sort of overlooked Burnley and they're looking straight ahead at Liverpool, and I just hope that City's players are just looking at the game ahead and don't do that, because they're a dangerous team to overlook. And I mean, they surprised Liverpool. They did what no one else could do and broke that Anfield streak. So I'm not looking past them. They're going to be a tough team to break down. And I know we've beaten them 4-0 and 5-0, but every game's independent of the last. I don't think it's going to be an easy game, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals.
There's a lot of... we've all seen that we won 9 games in January, which is record-breaking since 1882 or something ridiculous. We seem to be... Pep's got a magic knack of breaking records, particularly ones that are long-serving ones. Tom, one interesting one for us at the minute is we were on a club record win of 12 consecutive victories in all competitions. The last Premier League side to win 13 was Arsenal back in 2002. That's not going to... I mean, Pep's not the type of manager to have that type of pressure on his mind, is he? Do you think he'll even know about that stat?
I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll say he doesn't, but I'm sure he will. But I think Pep's achieved so much as a manager that these little extra records he picks up along the way are just extra things to add to his CV. He doesn't need any more of these records. He's got enough of them. I think he'll just go tomorrow like he does any other game. I think we'll play quite direct tomorrow. I think we'll see Foden on the left. I think we'll see Mahrez on the right. I don't see us playing as much sort of down the flanks, ball into the box with Burnley as physical as they are. I think it'll be more of not a shoot on sight, because we never play like that under Pep, but I think he'll give Mahrez a run. He'll tell him, look, cut inside on that left foot like you do every game, and try and test the keeper. So I think it'll just, like I say, the records are great. The more records we can pick up is always going to be handy. When we're the first team to win the quadruple at the end of the year, that'll be amazing. But no, I don't think he'll go into the game looking at it any differently tomorrow.
Sorry, I thought you were going to say something then, Paul. Brian, we're unbeaten now in 19 matches. That's stretching back to November last year, conceding just 4 goals in that time period. We can equal our club league record of 6 consecutive clean sheets tomorrow night. That's not a means feat, and we can beat it if we do it tomorrow night, and obviously beat Liverpool on Saturday. The only question I've got for you, I suppose, is what's going to let our defence down in the coming weeks?
I don't know if anybody else, I don't know if you lads have noticed it, but there's one thing that certainly doesn't happen to Pep is often is red cards. You know, a red card will change games, and we've been quite... I can't remember the last time we had one where it was a significant early red card, you know, something stupid. I think that something like that is probably the only thing that is going to turn the tables, where we're going to be up against it here, you know, in a big game, or, you know, say for instance tomorrow we have keeper Ederson gets sent off for something stupid, you know what I mean? That sort of thing is the only thing I think that can probably really upset us. I mean, we will concede goals in the season, as I said, we're not going to keep clean sheets for the rest of the time, but I think I'd be happy to concede. I mean, I'd happily win 2-1 for the rest of the season in every game, forget the clean sheets. But I think the real test will come is if we are down to 10 men. You know, that's the sort of thing where we will probably see what sort of metal we've got now with this defence if we are up against it with 10.
Dan and Cloud, I want your opinions on Mahrez. Obviously, we've seen in social media today, seen in a bit of press that the Algerian manager's come out and said Mahrez wants to leave, and that's been quickly rebuffed by the Argentinian manager, saying he was actually misquoted, saying he's upset. Mahrez is upset because he wants to, I think, play more, which is understandable. So we can't really have a go at Mahrez for that. There still are people having pops at Mahrez, left, right, and centre. I mean, he's scored 8 games against Burnley, more than any other player from any other side to score against one team. So he's got to start tomorrow night. Dan, I'll start with you first, and Cloud, I'll come on to you second. Is Mahrez starting tomorrow night for you? And if he does, and what's your thoughts on him and a wider aspect for City?
If you want to continue the way we're going, especially against a team like Burnley, I wouldn't want him to start. I think Bernardo Silva, especially on the right wing, will be a hell of a lot more effective. Ferran Torres had a great second half in the previous game. Phil Foden's a shoe-in on that left. He cannot be dropped at all. So for me, he has to be on the bench. I can understand why Pep would play him. You know, he does offer something. But in terms of Mahrez as a whole, I said it on our private Discord chat, I will stand behind any player that wears the shirt and carries the badge. Hands down, 100%. But at the same time, I just couldn't give a toss if he doesn't play for the rest of the season.
Really?
He's so frustrating, just especially against Sheffield United early on in the season when we won 1-0. He had that great first half, and then he went lacklustre. But that first half, you saw the difference in him. He was starting to be a bit more different about his play. He wasn't always just running and cutting in on his left. He was mixing it up. Defenders didn't know if he was going to go right or left. He was able to whip a good ball in. He just needs to do that. If he can mix his game up more, be a bit more passive, he'll be much more of a Guardiola type and City player at this current moment. But right now, he's really driving me nuts of how selfish he's been all of a sudden and how poor on the ball he's been as well.
Cloud, what's your thoughts about that, pal?
I think the problem with Mahrez, he's a very different winger to what we use in our system. I think he's, in terms of pure footballing ability, he's the most talented, but that doesn't win you games. And what's most frustrating about him when I watch him is his extremes between a great performance and a bad performance are so far. He's either has a great game or he has a poor game. There's no real in between with him. That being said, I do love to see Bernardo on the right wing, but with Kev out, I don't think we can afford to move him. So we've got Sterling and Foden who can switch in on that left, or even Torres. And then we've got 2 more options on the right. So he does have to play some games. I would start him against Burnley. And if I was Pep, I'd say, look, I know you haven't been playing recently, but go out there, show me what you can do, and show me why you deserve to be starting for the team. And he's got to Mahrez has got to win it for himself. He's got to show the ambition in training and on the pitch. And that's why he's been dropped. Because in a lot of games, he doesn't look like the most hard-working player on the pitch.
It's a tough one for him, isn't it, really? Brian, what's your take on Mahrez?
I'm not his biggest fan, only off this season with his attitude, really. You can tell. He's hit and miss, like Klaus said, then he's hit and miss too much. And the gaps in between a good performance and the bad ones, you just night and day. And I've always said, like, he's playing on credit in the bank at the minute if he gets a game. And I honestly wouldn't start him for a reason. Yeah, he's got this good record against Burnley, but if you look at the way Burnley set up, they're just going to have 2 banks of 4, and their left back is going to love it if he comes inside and lets somebody else deal with him. You know what I mean? Because that's what Mahrez does. Mahrez isn't going to take anybody on. He's probably lost that bit of pace that he had to get by somebody. So you're looking at, if they're going to load up with Eric Peters on the left hand side, he's going to love the fact that his winger's going to cut inside and he's going to come across Ben Mee and like your defensive midfielders. He's going to want that all day. But I think ideally for them, Mahrez would start. For us, I just think you get Sterling on one side, get Foden on the other, and let's just go in behind them all day. That'll bring that back 4 back. That'll give us the midfield space with like Gundogan and Bernardo to get on the ball. I think that is how we break these down. I just don't think Mahrez brings anything that's sort of like threatening to them. Because let's be honest, he's going to cut inside. What's he going to look to do? He's either going to give it to the central midfielder, or he's going to try and whip a really poor curl crossing. And then defenders are going to lap that up. And me and Tarkowski, that's what they'll defend for 90 minutes solid if they can, and they would. So I think for us to break them down, it has to be something that Mahrez can't offer them.
Right, let's start that caveat perfectly into predicted teams for tomorrow. Who wants to go first? Go on, Dan.
I'll go first.
Oh, I thought Dan volunteered himself then. You raise your hand. Go on, Tom. What are you doing, pal?
I think we'll Ederson will start in goal. I'm expecting Janko to stay in the side with Diaz. I think he'll keep Laporte in. I think he'll save Stones for the weekend and Cancelo at right back. And then I think we'll have Rodri, Gundogan and Bernardo in the middle of the park with Foden on the left, Mahrez on the right, and then Jesus through the middle.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. Very similar to mine. Go on, Dan. What are you thinking?
Is it worthwhile because it's Pep going for a completely different team than what most of us predict? I might as well throw the bone out there. I'll say Carson in goal, Walker right back, Mendy left back, Garcia and Taylor Howard belly. Thing is, I know one of them's going to be right. It's just depending on which one. Probably Carson.
He's at Blackburn.
Yeah, he's at Blackburn now.
Oh, of course he isn't he? Yeah. Oh, Jesus. No, in all seriousness, I hope Cancelo plays. Zinchenko as well. I'd keep Stones and and Diaz because those two just got to keep that rhythm going. I know Stones has dropped rested in the previous game. Ederson in goal. Rodri, Gundogan in that double pivot. I'd love to see Foden more centrally, see what he can do. I'd have Jesus out on the left, Sterling out on the right, and Ferran Torres up front.
Whoa. Cloud, coming to you.
Ederson would be in goal, I think. Centre-back partnership is going to be a bit of a tough one. I think it's probably going to be Laporte and Stones. I think this is a good chance to test them together and see how they play alongside each other without Diaz holding one of their hands. As for the fullbacks, I think Zinchenko is going to play left back. He's done amazingly so far, keeping the pitch wide, and his chemistry with Foden is fantastic. And that's what we need to beat Burnley. On the right-hand side, I think we're going to have Cancelo playing. He's just going to do what he does and just go everywhere on the pitch. I think we're going to have Rodri and Gundogan as part of the double pivot, but Gundogan's obviously going to advance further up. Bernardo's going to be on the right in that KDB-esque role.
Yeah.
I would love to see Ferran or Sterling on the right, but I think it's going to be Mahrez. I think it'll be Jesus in the middle, and then on the left, I think it's got to be Foden, really.
Crikey, they're all doing different teams there. Brian, what are you thinking, pal?
Obviously, Edison starts himself. I'm going to go with Diaz and Stone centre halves, and Zinchenko and Cancelo, because the full-backs are just so good at cutting in to make that extra midfielder at the minute. Them two are just so good at it on one side or the other, and that's what's keeping.
Who is that? Sorry, pal.
I think Cancelo and Zinchenko are both of our full-backs. They just complement each other so well of being able to make that extra man in midfield.
Yeah.
We practically play with two at the back at sometimes, and play two at the back, two in midfield, and then the rest of them are all further forward than that. I actually think he's going to start Fernandinho in this one. I think Rodri will probably sit out there, just because they are long ball merchants. And one thing I've noticed, and especially if that in the last game against Sheffield United, anytime they pump a long ball forward, the centre backs will always drop off, and it was always Fernandinho coming up for the headers. So I think to have somebody like Fernandinho who'll do that all day long over Rodri, I mean, keeping the ball is not going to be a problem here. It's going to be getting the ball on the floor for us from corners for them and free kicks and stuff. So I think that's where he'll start. Yeah. Gundogan, Bernardo, and then probably our strongest front three at the minute is Sterling, Jesus, and Foden.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. So I've gone for very similar. Edison, Zinchenko, Diaz, Stones, Cancelo. I've gone quite a strong midfield of Gundogan, Rodri, and Fernandinho with Bernardo, Jesus, and Foden. Brian, I think I'm similar to you. I think Fernandinho is going to do a lot of mopping up tomorrow night.
Yeah, from the other night, he was used in that role from the last 10 minutes. How them balls going up forward, he was on every single header.
Yeah.
Whether he won them or not, he was going up for them one after the other. And obviously, by him doing that, it just gives your centre backs a bit of extra space to actually mop up there. Burnley are this sort of team.
Yeah, absolutely. My only question mark in mind is Rodri, because I don't know. I kind of think I know the way Burnley are going to play. I think he might have a bit of a wasted position there, because Gundogan's going to play. I'm absolutely sure that the way Pep's using him at the moment, I could pretty much guarantee he'd play. Rodri's the only missing link for me, and up front I want to see Bernardo, Jesus, and Foden again. Bernardo maybe for Sterling. I could see Sterling getting a whisper. I think he's due. He's just lost a bit of form, and he lost a bit of bite, hasn't he, Sterling? I think he needs game time.
I think he's taking one for the team, Sterling, when he plays now. He's not a predator. He's not banging 30 goals a season. He's just not on that form at the moment. However, him playing on the right side is letting Phil Foden play on the left, because arguably you could say, if it came down to ability, Sterling should probably start. If it just came down to playing ability on form, you would think he would probably start over him 9 times out of 10. But Sterling playing out wide, is forward on that left-hand side.
Right, now's the key question, lads. Predictions. Dan. Come on, Dan. Give me a good prediction, pal. Come on, what are we thinking?
See, I say it's going to be a close game, so I'm going to go for a 5-0 win.
5-0? Oh, my Lord. Cloud, what are we thinking?
I reckon it'll be 2-0. I think Jesus is going to get a goal, and then Bernardo.
2-0. Tom, what are you thinking, pal?
My head says 2-0. My heart says hopefully about 10-0 to keep me warm, but I'll go with 2-0 for the professional side of it.
Okie dokie. Brian, what are we thinking?
I'm going to say Workman like 3-0. Probably those 3 goals coming in the second half, because they will be hard to break down.
Clean sheets, a confident scoreline. 2 2-0s, a 3-0 and a 5-0. Lads.
I'm going to throw in a first City goal for Diaz. For this tomorrow, an header from a corner. I just fancied it.
Like a salmon.
Yeah, or anything. I don't know what sort of fish live around in Burnley, so.
Bit of trout. Yeah, you're laughing. Fantastic. Cool. Tom, did you need to nip off, pal? I know you couldn't stay on for long.
Yeah, I'm needing to shoot now. I wanted to wait until there was a decent break before you continue into your next stuff. But yeah, I'll be chatting tomorrow from the ground with a couple of you guys before. Are you doing your live tomorrow, Dan?
Oh,
you doing your
I will be. Yeah,
yes.
I'm back.
So-
I'm back.
So yeah, I'll hopefully be there around 5 o'clock chatting at Turf Moor before the game, before Dan takes over and does his trademark live. So yeah, happy days.
Come on, Blues. Right, see you tomorrow night, Tom. 5 o'clock, mate.
See you later, guys.
Cheers,
Bye.
pal.
See you later, pal.
See ya.
Right then, lads, got a few questions, so you have to give me just a couple of seconds to sort out the screen, which, as you can imagine, with somebody leaving, has just got a bit messed up. So, we got a couple of questions from people from our Facebook page. One particular question coming in about our youth policies at the moment. We've just signed that young lad from Rochdale. Is it? It wasn't Braith, was it? What was his name? Crikey, I've forgotten.
Back or something, isn't it?
Bar. Quando Bar of Rochdale. We signed him. He's going back to Rochdale at the end of the season. 18 years old. He's been tipped as a special talent in inverted commas. Made 18 appearances in all competitions this season, scoring 3 goals, 2 assists. Which is more than 𝙋𝙧𝙚𝙚 has managed in the Premier League. 3 goals and 1 assist for 𝙋𝙧𝙚. So, I don't know what really that says. But the biggest question I've got for you, lads, is this special talent from Rochdale. Do you ever see this lad playing in a City shirt, or do you expect him to be on loan at Girona next season, like half a dozen other City players? Cloud, I'm going to you with that one, pal. What's your thoughts, buddy?
Well, I'm going to use a recent example. If you type into Google and you look up Jan Couto and look up when he was signing up, one thing in his statement, he said, I wanted to go to Manchester City because of the promise of actually playing football and not immediately going out on loan. And then he immediately went out on loan. So, but the academy is there just simply to make money. It's not always about these, prospects coming through and putting on a City shirt. Eventually we do, try and bring them back in. We did it with Angelino, but again, the Angelino deal made us money because I think Leipzig have now got to trigger the buy clause at the end of the season. So I don't see him pulling on a City shirt, considering the depth that we've got and the average age of the squad is about 26 or 27 right now. I don't see how he's going to break through in the next few years, but that's the academy in a nutshell.
Yeah, and that question came from Nat Giroux on Facebook, about the buying and selling and loaning out of players. And for me, a lot of the old school City fans, like me, to want a better phrase, doesn't like this. They want to see young players coming through, getting blooded, etc., etc. But I see things completely different. I see our academy nothing more than an extra revenue stream for our owners. And I get that, and I'm realistic enough to know that actually the academy's doing really well. We've got the Garcias, I know we bought him, blah, 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 but we've got the Fodens, we've got a couple of other players that came through that. And you know what? It's doing its job. It's turning over a profit. We've got our spider web cast across most of the globe now for the freshest and best talent. Yeah. If a good player is going to be out there, we're going to get a good chance of seeing him and signing for him. If they're good enough, they're going to get to our first team. I don't necessarily see a problem with that. Dan, do you think that City stunt the growth of players, or do you think we help build players?
Definitely stump him. The one bad thing about the City group, not Manchester City, the City group, is all these clubs that players can now get loaned out to, such as your Gironas, such as your Melbourne Cities, such as your New York Cities in some aspects. But it's the players in the calibre that we're signing. It's always these young lads that started life in the lower divisions that have a good half season to 1 season. Take your Patrick Roberts, for example. They have 1 good season. They're tipped to be this next big thing, and all 18, 19-year-old English lads are always tipped to be the next big thing. And they always have this belief that they want to go to a massive club like City, like United, like Chelsea, like Liverpool, the aspects of playing for world-class teams and breaking there in a couple of years' time. It's not that. That's not the case at all. It never has been, never will be in my eyes. This lad will sign for City, go out on loan to probably a Celtic or something like that, and we'll sell him on for however much profit we'd probably sell him on for. Granted, it goes on to make a profit, which I suppose is good. But I understand the direction. The club wants to make money. They're a business. The businessmen, the guys who run and own the club. That's what they're there for, to make money. The footballing aspect aside is lost in transition in me. Me as a fan, I would love to see this lad, who, if he is tipped to be the next thing, get a good couple of games next season and make a name for himself. But I honestly will put money on it. It will not happen unless he was in Manchester. He'd started like Phil Foden, come up through the ranks and made a name for himself, such as the Tommy Doyles as well. Any player we sign to come into the academy doesn't work for me. Never has done.
As much as we don't like it, it is the business model. It's successful.
Yeah.
It is a successful business model, and like it or not, this is the way we're going to be run for the next 20 odd years. We need that revenue coming in, but first and foremost, that is more important than anything. We need that revenue to compete and sustain. I'm like Tom. I'm a bit of an old school sort of thing. I want to have I would love to have a young kid coming through. You know, we love it. We all dream of the Phil Foden scenario, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s and we saw it with Manchester United, the class of 92. We all want that. Every team in the world wants that. The reality is, it's not happening. It's not happening anywhere. No club in the world is doing it anymore. It's not happening. So the sooner we start to realise that this lad is just going to be another one on the carousel that comes in, he'll get something that he won't be getting at Rochdale, and that is a football and education with some of the best coaches, the best facilities, the best trainers, you know, the best education in terms of academic they can give. You know, you'll be getting that at City. You won't be getting that at Rochdale. You might play some games, but you get these sort of opportunities at City. They come in. That's why the lads will come in and they'll take those opportunities. Granted, he might not ever make it into the neps of our under-23 squad. I'm a man in the first team, but what he'll do is he'll come in there as a young man. He'll get an education. He'll learn. At some point, it might click, it might not, but we're setting him up for a life in hopefully English football at the highest level he can achieve. And that, to me, is we've got the business model on one side, but as long as we're doing right by the players as best as we can, you know, let them all. We're not signing 50 young kids and sending them out along. We're cherry picking the few that we can get our hands on, and saying the world is at your feet. We've given you all the tools we can. Progress as much as you can, and we'll see where you're up to. And sadly, some don't make it, but a lot of them will go on to have professional careers in other countries and other teams. We are providing that now, and that is for us. It's a revenue stream. For them, it's a life into football. That's
one thing you picked up on it there. The class of '92 for United. That's one thing a lot of fans have to get out their head. That is a one-time thing.
Yeah.
No other club has ever done that.
That's one about it in the mid-2000s. United done it in the '90s. No other team is doing that. It's not sustainable.
It's just that was both of them were just so lucky to have that. That there was literally no chance of that ever happening again, bar probably once in a generation. They were so lucky to have so many good players come through at one time. We won't do that because we loan too many out at one time, and the lads who we do keep, bar your Phil Fodens, and not getting enough game time. And that's where Dave will probably agree with me there. The lads who aren't going out on loan, they need more game time. Because if you're not getting game time, you might as well move out permanently, or at least try to do something on loan. Go out on loan for a season or two maximum. If you've not made it into the first team after 2 seasons on loan, you're not going to do it. Move away permanently and go for it.
As a counteract to that, though, right? Where these lads going to get games, we can't realistically put them. We can't realistically chuck this young lad in and get over. You know, we're talking here about a young kid. He's not going to get in a team in front of Torres. I mean, if this young kid was brought in for peanuts and then we're chucking him in front of Torres, you'd be starting to wonder what's the point of bringing Torres in. You know, these lads aren't going to get games, and let me just keep rolling with this. These lads aren't going to get games like that. Then we're just not that team anymore. 7-8 years ago, we might have chucked out an under-23 team in the Carabao Cup under Pellegrini. We might have lost, and that's the end of that run in that cup. It's done. Now we are all about winning. We're about winning trophies. We're about building a legacy, and these young lads aren't going to get games in them competitions. Just for the pure fun of it, because we want those trophies. Look at the run we've had in the Carabao Cup. Was it 4 chance for 3 seasons in a row? We're in our 4th final. This wouldn't happen if in 2017 Pep chucked in, you know, Brahim Diaz, Foden, Doyle, and all these young kids, all 17, 18, 19 against a team from like Southampton. Would have got beaten. We've been out, and that's this is why we have to keep doing what we're doing. In 10 years' time, there'll be another set of young lads coming through, and maybe when we've got 30 more major trophies in the bag in 10, 15 years' time, so it's time to let these young kids come through now, and we can afford to throw a trophy away, you know, and let it's worth it. But right now, what's worth it to us is the dominance.
I completely agree. Yeah. Well, at the end of the season, I'm not celebrating the fact that we brought through another academy player. I'm celebrating the fact that we're lifting a trophy. So, as all I care about, these footballers are going to go on to win a lot of money. Fantastic. I hope it's for City. I hope they go on to win lots of trophies at City and be on our first team. But the reality is, we're bringing so many players through our academy. What do you reckon? 4%? Dave, you're a statistics man. What do you reckon? 5% actually make it to a name that we recognise?
You mean at City, or do you mean just having
just
a
at
professional
City? Just at
career
City. Yeah, just at City.
5%, probably. But that's okay. I think
that's a good number.
I only came in at the end of this conversation, but here's my point, and me and Brian were talking about this on the group chat earlier today. That I have no problem with, you know, the bringing in the players and, you know, loaning them out and whatever. What my inherent problem is when we spend millions, and it is millions of pounds on a player, and then we don't give them any education, Brian, because what you just said was we give them a football education. We don't.
Well, it depends what sort of education they're getting at other clubs. We don't know the ins and outs of Girona. We don't know the ins and outs of all the other subsidiary teams. But one thing's for certain, they'll be getting a really good education there. It won't be the same as at City, but they'll be getting themselves football. It's either you're getting football and education. There's some places you can't get them both, and these lads are out there. Prove yourself here. You know, it has to be a carrot and a stick. For some of them,
and that's where you and I and Halifax just completely disagree, because I think when you've spent, we were talking, Tom, this morning, we were talking about Patrick Roberts, and I think Manchester City honestly ruined him. Yeah. This was a 17-year-old who had the world at his feet, apparently, and that's what the scouts were telling us, you know, and apparently every club in the world was after him. We purchased him for 12 million, and to Brian's point, who's just said, go out and prove yourself. Not at City. He was brought in and immediately put out on loan as a 17-year-old and told, all right, go and prove it. And it's not fair. The price tag isn't fair, and the expectation isn't fair. And they've done that now with Roberts. They've done that with Couto. I don't think we'll ever see Couto in a City shirt. No chance. They've done it. These two new Brazilian lads who they've just bought for 9 and 5 million or whatever. They're not going to come to City. They're going to be immediately told they're going to Girona or Lorient or, you know, wherever our sister clubs are. And that's why I made the point that that's where I get concerned about City, that they're not nurturing. Where they've nurtured well is someone like Harwood Bellis, who has gone through the ranks and is now, Brian, to your point, he's not going to get in the first team, right? But what they've done is, they've brought him through the ranks and they've sent him to a local club, Blackburn, where he's probably still going to be living at home. He'll be in constant contact. And I just wish that they could do that with these players who they buy for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 million pounds, who've got all this potential. And I think the expectation is then massively great on them. I understand that we might make money on them. I get that. But for me, when did Manchester City become all about the money? And you made the point yesterday, Brian, about us being a community club, and let's not lose that spirit. I still want that to be in our soul of our club of let's get these players, whether they're from Brazil or wherever, and nurture them the right way before we make it just about we bought him for 7 million, let's send him to Girona and sell him for 10 million. It just doesn't sit well with me.
Thing is, Dave, on that point quickly there, sending these South African lads and some of these other, you know, these foreign lads from that sort of area to a Girona, you know, to a European team, it suits them better to be in that sort of scenario where the climate's a bit better. They can be, you know, there's not much pressure on them to adapt. Imagine and adapt straight away to being in an English-spoken language all the time. You know, I imagine that was quite difficult. Whereas you're giving these young 18, 19-year-old lads to travel out to Girona, to wherever, you know. And one thing I don't, you might have noticed it. There's obviously loan managers now. We have quite a lot of loan managers. Julian Lescott's quite a high-profile loan manager for us. I'd like to think that Julian Lescott doesn't speak great Spanish, but I imagine there's somebody in there who's a loan manager for these young lads who is there as their first point of call. Will make sure you're comfortable. You spend a year here. You adapt, you get used to it. You're coming from home, you know, you might bring your family with you, get used to it, and then we'll see where you're at to. Because I think that process, if you're sticking him in an under-18 academy at City, in Manchester, doing that, it's going to be a lot more difficult than, you know, than playing in Spain, you know, in these sort of places. I think that it's not coming from Brazil to us or coming from Wales to us is a big gap. But if you can bridge that gap by putting them in a culture they're a little bit more familiar with and chance to blossom, I think that is where we tend to send these young lads out, and we might not see Colt or Couto, we might not see these young lads from Brazil that have come in. We might not ever see them in the City shirt, but we're giving them a chance to, every chance we can to be able to make it sure that they can get that chance if they adapt well and they prove themselves, you know. And then, because let's be honest, we're all been 18, 19. Would you go and live in a different country, 18, 19-year-old, and not been there? It's going to be difficult. You know, and especially with some of them earning quite a bit of money as well. So for them, it's got to be managed right, rather than just chucking them straight to Manchester and say, right, we'll see you on Monday, 7:30, training with people speaking English all day long. It's not going to work. That's my point.
So I'm going to leave that one there if that's all right. We've got quite a few questions to answer, but that's a really good point. Have we got any final words on that before we move on to the next one?
I'm right.
Cloud, you've been very patient there, pal. I want your thoughts on Gundogan. Ethan Shaw's asked a really good question. Has Gundogan found his new position? He seems to be relishing a more attacking role that he's playing. And how do you think our current attacking lineup fits around him being our central creative playmaker? What's your thoughts around that, Cloud?
I think his versatility is underlooked a lot of the time, mainly because he's playing alongside what I think is the most creative midfielder in the world in Kevin De Bruyne. But I think he's always had that there. It's just in the last couple of games, it's really shown. But he has been, you know, he's been overlooked a lot, Gundogan has. But you see the spaces that he gets into, how quick he's reacting. And when we don't have him in the team, he's often, you know, we look completely different in midfield. We sort of lose the entire tempo in midfield. But I remember just a year ago, and it shows how quick things change, there was that theory floating about online that Rodri and Gundogan couldn't play in the same team together because they were too slow. And then you look at them now when the team's got a bit of confidence behind them, and they look incredible.
Absolutely. It's Dave, I'd like your opinion on Gundogan and the more... I mean, he's kind of fitted... I think I spoke to you, lads, was it last week? And I said he's kind of stepped up when it comes to the David Silva type position now. He seems to be creating more. He's obviously never going to be David Silva. What's your thoughts?
How long have Dan and I been talking about Gundogan and what kind of midfielder he is? Because if you remember, probably 2 years ago now, we were talking about, is he a defensive midfielder? Is he attacking midfielder?
Dave, I remember the conversation. I remember the conversation distinctly saying, what is he? We don't know what he is. Is he attacking? Is he defensive? I remember that conversation as if it was yesterday.
And now we know he's an attacking midfielder. And I think what has happened, to Cloud's point, is that he's now being used correctly. The defensive midfielder, i.e. partnering Rodri or Fernandinho, wasn't right. That was slowing his game down. What Gundogan's game has developed to is, I'm not saying he's in the same bracket as Frank Lampard, but that kind of player who goes in as that attacking midfielder and gets on the end of balls. He likes scoring goals, which not a lot of midfielders do. And that's what he did at Dortmund. Took him a while at City to get where he is. He's coming back from that bad knee injury anyway. He's found his right position now, which is kind of like if this makes sense, a false nine midfielder. That's what he is.
Nine midfielder? You've just made up a new role.
Exactly. But that's what Pep does.
You know,
He's a false nine midfielder, right?
Is he a false eight? Is he a false eight then?
He's a false two.
Yeah, false eight.
Remember, if you go back to when we won the league last And for them last 10 games, you filled in as a defensive midfielder. In the first game, he was pretty dodgy. And then after that, he was probably the reason we won the league towards the end of that season.
Yeah.
And that just shows his versatility, how he just slipped back into that quarterback role. He just slipped in, and he was just like ping, 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 take play. He's taking that sort of mood into the midfield, and further up now. He's doing that further up.
He could still sell a packet of sleeping tablets. I'm not going to take that away from his game.
Oh, come on, Dan. The last couple of weeks has been magnificent. Him and Rodri are 1 and 2 for potential player of the season for me, for the City team. They've both been fantastic. I tell you what, depending on how the next couple of months stands out, if he goes on and scores more goals and Diaz, we don't concede as many with Diaz at the back. I tell you what, I wouldn't know who to vote for. I genuinely wouldn't know who to vote for.
If we win the league, based on previous PFA Player of the Years, does this mean that Diaz is going to win PFA Player of the Year because
only
Van Dijk did?
Only time could tell. Let's put the big if there. And a good caveat, thank you, Dave, into that. Ethan also asked, am I the only one thinks they're going to win the league by 12 points? I'm not touching this one with a barge pole. So I'm going to let Cloud. Cloud, what do you think, pal?
If you win the title on goal difference or you win it by 20 points, you still get one trophy. It's still the same trophy. I would prefer it to be a bit closer, just because.
Oh no!
But it's exhilarating. It's exhilarating. It really is. When we won it in 2017, 2018, it was great, but there was also a sense it was anticlimactic as well. Whereas when we won it, when we were head-to-head against Liverpool, don't get me wrong, that had my heart racing. But that's what football's about.
I don't know if it is. I don't know if my blood pressure... I say no, my blood pressure's been all right the last couple of years. I don't think... Dan, you've watched the game with me, haven't you? And you know how antsy I get. I can't handle another last day of the season. I can't handle another Brighton. I can't handle another QPR. I'd rather win it by 10 points or lose it by 10 points. Because I know there's either way then.
To be fair, Manchester City's biggest fan, Vin Diesel, summed it up. You know Vin Diesel, the actor. It doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. I'd have it any way whatsoever, just as long as we win it. I could quite happily go for another QPR. I really could.
No way.
Because it's... Well, I said another QPR. We won that game. I'm not saying I'd hate a QPR where we lost 2-1. That's what I'm saying. If we win, then it matters. If we lose like a QPR, we lose 3-2 and we don't win the title, of course I'm never going to say that again. But I always look at football as the neutral City fan. City, through my heart, ever since I was born, all the way through, no matter what. But I also love neutrality in games, i.e. if we were to play Liverpool, if we were to play United, I'd love both teams to be on form, because then I know if we win it, we beat a great team and we've turned out to be even better, and it proves that we win it. I hate all this fannying about this season where everyone says whoever wins it, it's a fake league because there's no crowd. That I can understand because the games have been left, right and centre, but looking at the season as a whole, yes, it's an absolute mashup of results, but it brings so much back into football. You don't know who's going to win it. You don't know when the next bad result or good result's going to be coming around, and I love that. But either way, I still think we're going to win it. Halifax has really changed my mind, and I don't care, like I said, if it's by a QPR-style win or battering teams in... Well, we can't get 100 points, but that similar style season.
How funny is that the tone of the conversations we're having now compared to 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah.
We were fighting for Champions League 3 months ago.
I think if we continue our form we're in now, so if we was to win 5 of the next 6 games, I think we'll probably have a lead of maybe 7, 8 points, and I don't think we're going to let that slip. If we can play 12, 13 games like we have done, you know, we're on 44 now. If we can win 5, it puts us up to nearly 60. I don't think we can slip up from there, given that we've managed to get to a position by being absolutely dominant for 12, 13 games.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to think that in those games we're playing Liverpool, so that's more points off them. But I think if we can keep up this form, if we can win 5 of the next 6, I think that gives us a 6, 7, 8, maybe more lead, and I don't think there's I think at that point we can say this league is ours for the winning now.
Well, I said in December, I said January is going to make or break our season, and we've absolutely smashed its back doors in, so we can't argue with that. Now I'm looking at February, thinking February is going to make or break our season. We've got some really tough games in February.
But that's what I was going to add to Brian. When you said next 5 games, do you mean in the league or all games?
We'll talk about the league then. We're talking about the league. So if we can win 5 of the next 6 league games, regardless of the Europa League, the Champions League, regardless of that, I think that game's going to be a foregone conclusion. Anyway, I think if we can focus and win 5 of the next 6 games, I think that puts us in a really, really strong place with only 12 good world games to go.
Let me just tell you who the next 5 or 6 games are. These Premier League. We've got Burnley, Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, West Ham, then United.
That is 4 of the top 6 we're playing there.
So we've got Liverpool, Tottenham, Arsenal, United.
West Ham are higher than Arsenal.
West Ham are 5th, Tottenham are 6th, Liverpool and Man United. So that's what I'm saying. If we win 5 of those 6, not only is that us giving us 15 minimum points, it's also taking points off those as well.
I don't think I can handle this.
And then those teams have got to play each other. So this next 5 or 6 games is make or break. There's no reason why we shouldn't keep the form we've got now. And if we were to lose one of those games, it's not the end of the world as long as we win the other 5. That means we are in a really good, strong position. So we have played most of our teams now.
Especially if we keep Diaz fit.
Yeah,
it's a bit about keeping everyone fit. It's about getting the lads back as well, to be fair. Because you've got to think in the next month's period, we're going to be getting... I'd like to think we'll have our full-strength squad back then, and that means we've got Aguero, De Bruyne back.
Great caveat into that. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next question from Moyo Neaton. What's more likely, Aguero signing a new contract or him leaving the club? Go on, Brian, you can have that one, pal. What's more likely?
The only reason he leaves at the end of the season is if he can't get fit and he doesn't contribute. If he can stay fit from this point on now, and he can add if he can score 10 goals between now and the end of the season in the league, we win the league and he stays. We owe him that and he owes us that.
Yeah. He's got to take a pay cut. He needs to take a pay cut. He can't be on the same money as had the last couple of years.
I don't think it really matters, does it? One more season, 12 months of that?
I say that as if I care about the money. Pay what
that's what I mean.
At
that point, a pay cut to something like that doesn't make much difference to us.
Dan,
but I think...
Come on.
I still love that. I think it was you that brought it up, Tom. Would he stay an extra 12 months if Messi signed?
Well, this is what I said. I said this months ago. I said Pep signs a new contract. Sergio plans a new contract. Messi signs, and that's the kind of trend I'm still going with.
On that train of thought, I hope he leaves by the end of the season because my views of Messi coming. I hope it doesn't bloody happen. That's that. But in terms of Sergio alone, completely agree with Brian. He has to prove his worth to stay at this club now, and that's awful saying for what he's done for us over the past God knows how many years now. But it's going to be 10 years at the end of this summer since he signed.
Amazing.
It's for me right now. If he doesn't score another 10 goals by the end of the season, he shouldn't renew his contract, and that's awful to say. But all
20 games. He's got about 20 games to do that. I think he's doable.
I think that's doable.
I think that's a fair return.
With the feed that's into his feet and into his head, it's definitely doable. Cloud, what's your thoughts on Sergio? Stay or go?
I really don't like answering this question because it's it's heart and brain telling you 2 different things. But we've seen it in the media where they're saying, a contract's not been offered to Aguero. Well, he's not been fit all season, and you're not going to offer an extension to someone who's not fit because you've got to see what he's like when he comes back. Now, if he comes back and he's not the same player, or if he's struggling for fitness and he can't make it, then I would rather see him go out as the player that I've watched him for the last 10 years. The player that I remember, because people started to turn on David Silva when his form sort of went a bit, and that was horrible to see. And I don't want to see it with Aguero, but I also don't want to see it pop up with that generation of players when we were winning the title for the first time in however many years, all greyed out, because he's the last one of that crop.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Dave, I'm going to leave you with the final words on Sergio.
I think we need to work out what his ambition is, and he knows he's coming towards the end of his career. My understanding is that he still wants to finish his career at Independiente, where he started, 20 years ago. And for me, I would rather see him go. I think I agree with Cloud that we're never going to get the QPR Aguero back now. He could leave at the end of this season in a blaze of glory and not diminished his legacy in any way, shape or form. I've been saying for a couple of years now, his body is done.
18 years at a really good standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
His body is telling him, Kuhn, give it up.
Yeah, you look at Wayne Rooney for a comparison to that.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne Rooney's legs went 3 years ago and he's just retired. Yeah. So you got to think Aguero's probably got. I think he's probably only got 18 months in him, and he's probably done. So.
Yeah, and that's why he wants to play for Independiente, or supposedly he does. Go and finish your career there, and leave with best wishes and thanks from City fans.
The only thing about that, going back to the Independiente thing, is you look at Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho was playing over there too. He was like 45, wasn't he? He was still going. So it's not like the standard's going to be much for him to not be able to do. It's just whether or not he can prove his fitness and he comes back and has got some kind of fire in his belly to earn his contract to prove that this last calendar year is not how he wants to go out. Let's be honest, he's come back and fought against Jesus. He's come back. Now's his other time. Can he prove himself through injury? Can he come back from that? Can he end his career as City's all-time leading goal scorer on the highest of highs rather than fading out through injury?
Is it not worth him just having one more crack at the whip to have a full? He's never going to play a full season, though, is he? He's never ever going to play a full season, though, is he? That's the only concern. Crikey.
If he's fit, If he's fit, I can't think of anybody better to have in our team alongside somebody else. If he's fit, Aguero, and you know he's going to score, you know he's going to run, you know he's going to put it in, and he's done it. You're not just thinking that, he's been there and done it over the years. So, would you take bringing somebody in and letting Aguero go, or would you rather keep Aguero for a while? You know what I mean? I think you've got to stick with what you know for now until it's time to say goodbye.
Right, my 2 pence worth is worth another season purely to have him in the changing room, in and around the squad, helping the youngsters coming through. Ferran Torres is going to be. I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, Torres is going to be our future number 9. I think he's going to be a brilliant striker in years to come, and I think he needs more game time with Sergio. I think he needs more time with Sergio. I think in 5 years' time, I'm going to have to write the date down of this podcast. We'll see Torres as being our number 1 striker, and I think he'll be smashing the goals in left, right, and centre. I don't know. I just got that whole Henry feel about him. Come as a striker, finishing as a striker. I don't know why. I just got that feeling that you watch him play. His positioning for finishing is fantastic. And he's 19. I think we need to adopt and improve on that.
If he's half the player of Henry, then I'll be more than happy with that.
Any more points to add about Sergio? I think we're done there, aren't we? Right, that's it, lads. We're done. That was a long half an hour, wasn't it? Crikey. Right, that's it. Anything else to add, lads, before we go?
Not from me.
If I missed them, what were the predictions for tomorrow?
Oh, are you ready for this? So Tom,
we all agreed 5-0.
Tom's doing a live from the game for us tomorrow, Dave. But Tom predicted 2-0. Dan predicted 5-0. Kyle predicted 2-0. And Brian did 3-0. So we've got 2 2-0s, a 3-0 from Brian, and a 5-0 from Dan. Standard. So what are you thinking, Dave? Prediction?
Tough game again, I think. And I did call it, Dan. Didn't I tell you?
Yeah.
That it will be a tough game. I think it's going to be the same again. Keep that defence going. I think Burnley will find it difficult to score. Can't see us scoring more than 2. I will go. Yeah, I'm going to go 1-0 actually. 1-0 City.
So we all think we'll get a clean sheet.
I'd take that clean sheets all round, lads. Listen, like Dan, every time I say to you, The clean sheet is the only thing that matters. All I'm worried about this. Every game we play is the clean sheet. We get the clean sheet.
Correct.
We'll let everything else worry about itself.
Yeah.
Defense wins us titles, lads. Defense wins us titles.
Agreed.
And on that note, thank you very much for joining us. Lads, it's nearly 9 o'clock. Get to bed. Right. Speak to you tomorrow, boys. Have a good one. We got myself and Dan pestering you for the City Burnley game tomorrow. Dan, I think I'm just going to leave you with that and chirp away in the background and constantly swear at the screen every now and then.
You'll have to kickstart that. I don't finish work till 5:45, and it takes me about 15 minutes to get home, so I'll be breaking some land speed records.
Don't
to
break
get
the speed. Take your time. The traffic's...
I mean, I drive perfectly safe and normal. I'm a very careful driver. I've not crashed once. I almost crashed into a wagon on the way to work this morning, but that's not the point.
Listen, drive safely. Safe than sorry. See you tomorrow night, Blues. Thanks for watching. See you soon.